Stay home. My ex is taking me to a hotel. You'd only ruin the mood. That's the text I got. Just that. No punctuation, no shame, no explanation why a married woman should be texting her husband to stay out of her affair like it was a dinner reservation. Just pure audacity on display. I was sitting in my recliner, feet up, History Channel low in the background, beer half full. She knew where I'd be, right where she left me, as always. I read it again, slower this time, in case the rage in my skull made me misinterpret something. Nope, that's what she said. Now I'm not the shouting type. Not anymore. That man used to exist, years ago, when I still believed a raised voice could fix a broken thing. Denise snuffed that part of me out around the time she started sleeping in separate hotel rooms for conferences, and by conferences I now assume she meant convenient locations to dismantle our vows on top of complimentary king beds and discount wine. But tonight, something snapped. Not like glass, like a lock. I put the phone face down on the table, picked up my laptop, searched the hotel name. She didn't say it, but I knew it. She only ever meets him at the same overpriced boutique place in town with spa robes and moody lighting in the halls, like they're staging a midlife crisis photo shoot. I booked the room next door, not a metaphorical next door, I mean literally. I requested connecting rooms. Same floor, same wing, same smug little building where she thought she was pulling the strings. Only now the puppet master was quietly packing a small overnight bag and printing off a marriage certificate from the fireproof safe in his closet. At check-in, the clerk glanced up at me with one of those polite service smiles. I could see the hesitation, 63 years old, worn denim, steady hands, probably looked more like someone's granddad than someone checking in next to a couple having hotel intimacy on their spouse's dime. She handed me the key card. "Connecting room if available?" I asked flatly. She checked. "Yes, sir. Room 408. The guest next door just checked in about 20 minutes ago." Perfect. Listen, before I go further, I need to say something. If you're hearing this and you're one of the 90% who never subscribe or follow, change that. It helps more than you think. Keeps stories like mine from getting buried under fluff and fake drama. Real stories deserve real ears. Thanks for listening. Anyway, I entered 408, cool air, soft jazz playing from the hotel speaker system, some automated mood enhancer no one asked for. I didn't unpack, just sat, listened. Through the wall, laughing. Two voices, hers and his, then the clink of a bottle, the pop of a cork. She always liked Prosecco, cheap stuff with a sweet bite. I could practically hear her doing that high-pitched giggle she used to save for me. I didn't react. I opened my briefcase instead. Everything was where it needed to be. Voice recorder, freshly charged, copy of our marriage license, notarized, financial statements, photos, including the one I took 2 weeks ago when I spotted her getting into his car after yoga. I followed them then, just long enough to watch her lean into him at the red light, grinning like a teenager, unaware that her husband had become fluent in silent observation. I placed the recorder against the adjoining wall, pressed record. People think betrayal is loud, shouts, slaps, things being thrown. But it's not. Real betrayal is quiet. It's a message, a laugh, a sound you hear through drywall, the way your wife giggles with someone else while you document it, calmly, like an accountant balancing a particularly ugly ledger. I sent the file to my attorney with a timestamp. No context. He didn't need it. He knew the plan. I'd briefed him weeks ago, told him I wasn't ready yet, but when the time came, he'd get a message, and that would be his signal to start pulling the right levers. At 12:43 a.m., there was a knock at their door. Apparently, someone had complained about the noise. How unfortunate. I stepped out of my room just as security knocked again. Two of them, professional, polite. They introduced themselves. One of them looked over at me, puzzled. "You staying next door?" he asked. "Yes, room 408. "Ah, sorry for the disturbance, sir." I nodded, then added, as casually as ordering room service, "By the way, you'll want to make a note I'm the legal spouse, not him." They paused. One of them blinked. I held up the paper. "Marriage certificate. Just thought it was relevant in case she's under the impression this is her room." The door opened behind them. Denise stood there in a black robe I didn't recognize, holding a champagne glass. Her smile flickered, then vanished. "Alan?" she said, voice too bright, too thin. I didn't say a word, just gave a small, tight nod. Her ex was behind her, shirtless, confused, whispering something like, "What the hell is this?" I turned back toward my door, calm as ice. The security team shuffled awkwardly. One muttered something into his radio. Denise slammed the door. I sat back down on the edge of my bed. Checked the time. 12:51, not bad. I had breakfast scheduled for 7 a.m. Room service, one plate, no company. Let her enjoy what's left of her night. I'd already started the paperwork. The mood? She was right about one thing. I was going to ruin it, just not in the way she expected. It didn't start with that text. No, that message was just the punctuation mark on a sentence she'd been writing for years, one passive-aggressive jab at a time. You don't watch your wife turn into a stranger overnight. It's more like dry rot in the beams of your house, quiet, invisible, until one day your ceiling caves in. The first time I noticed was 3 years ago. She came back from a girls' trip to Scottsdale with brand new luggage and tan lines that didn't match the swimsuit she packed. Said she lost her phone for a day at the spa. I didn't argue. I offered to help her track it. She changed the subject to dinner. That's when I started tracking something else. I made a new folder on my computer, called it Taxes 20T, just in case she ever got curious. Inside it, screenshots, receipts, itineraries, GPS data, every Uber ride she expensed from a credit card she thought I never checked, one from a steakhouse downtown at 11:47 p.m. Solo meal? Doubtful. It escalated from there. New friends with names I never heard twice. Gym sessions that somehow ended at bars. A spa membership she got gifted by a coworker, even though she's worked from home since 20. Locked phones, new passwords, Face ID switched to hers only. Again, I didn't confront. I adapted. That's the part people never talk about, how much a quiet man notices. You don't have to scream to be dangerous. You just have to keep seeing. She thought silence meant surrender. I was just learning her pattern. So I started untangling the web she didn't know I saw her spinning. Quietly removed her as a joint account holder, moved her name off the investment accounts with a single notarized form she signed just in case something happens to me. She didn't read it. She never does. Said, "You always handle the boring stuff." I smiled. I adjusted the will. Left most of the estate to my sister's son. Denise never liked him, said he was too weird for family functions. Now he's the primary beneficiary on 2 insurance policies. He doesn't know yet, won't unless it comes to that. But I wanted a record. I started making weekly visits to the same attorney she met for our prenup. Poor guy didn't even remember her, said she was more focused on floral arrangements than legal clauses back then. Now I was the one revisiting those dusty paragraphs, asking how to interpret marital misconduct in asset division. 2 weeks ago, Denise came home late again. Didn't notice I was still awake in the den. No kiss, no greeting, just a sigh and a wine glass. I asked if we were okay. She didn't look up from her phone, just said, "We're fine. I'm staying married for optics anyway. Divorce at our age is tacky." Tacky. Like it was a fashion faux pas. I didn't argue, didn't remind her I was still a person. I just looked at her and thought, "You've confused endurance with blindness." From that night on, I stopped thinking of her as a wife and started thinking of her as an opponent, and not even a particularly strategic one. She always assumed I'd never do anything because I never had. That's the flaw with manipulators. They get lazy. They think their silence is strength and yours is fear. But I wasn't afraid of Denise. I was afraid of wasting another decade being a placeholder in someone else's fantasy. So when she sent that message, "You'd only ruin the mood," it wasn't even shocking. It was just clarifying. I read it and thought, she really believes I'll just sit here and take it. That was the moment I knew she was already gone. And if she could be so brazen, then so could I. See, I never cheated. I didn't have a girlfriend on the side, didn't sign up for sugar daddy websites or download Tinder just to look. No, I stayed married the whole time. That's why this matters. That's why her night in that hotel room, this night, was the only thing I needed to tip the scales. She thought she had the freedom of a single woman with the financial security of a married one. She thought I wouldn't notice the way she started hiding cash tips from her part-time job. The new perfume she only wore when she ran errands. The matching luggage tags with someone else's initials, brushed off as a gag gift. She thought she was playing chess. She didn't realize I stopped playing the game. I flipped the board, logged every move, and handed it to my attorney. Tonight, I wasn't sitting in that hotel to win her back. God, no, I wasn't hoping for some big apology or teary-eyed confession. I didn't want closure. I wanted evidence. She chose her battlefield. I just showed up with the receipts and a marriage certificate and an email chain already archived with my lawyer should anything get accidentally deleted later. That was the thing about Denise. She always thought she was the main character. Tonight she found out she was in the prologue of her own ending, and I wasn't her husband anymore. I was her consequence. There's something surreal about hearing your wife giggle through drywall. Not scream, not moan, giggle. That private, intimate kind of laughter she used to reserve for lazy Sunday mornings or inside jokes whispered over burnt coffee. Now it bled through the paper-thin hotel wall like an insult with perfume on it. A man's laugh echoed back. Sloppy, confident, the kind of sound made by someone who thought he was in a safe space. I sat on the edge of the bed in the luxury suite she didn't know I'd booked. Room 408, a king-size bed, untouched, TV off, lights low, my suitcase still zipped. On the desk, my briefcase already open. From the other side of the wall, music, some upbeat R&B garbage her ex probably thought was sexy. Then a bottle popped, liquid poured, glasses clinked, laughter again. A bed creaked. I didn't flinch. Instead, I opened the briefcase and laid out my tools like a surgeon prepping for a procedure. First, the voice recorder. Slim, matte black. I turned it on. Checked the battery. Good. Second, the copy of our marriage certificate folded cleanly in a plastic sleeve. Signed, dated, notarized. Third, the asset documentation. House title in my name. Bank statements showing her independent account had been fed by my redirected deposits. Transaction log showing she'd used our joint credit card to book spa services in the same hotel last month. Funny, considering she told me she was in a book club that night. And last, the photo. A printout, glossy. Denise and her ex, arms around each other in broad daylight, standing in front of my truck. My truck. She didn't even park somewhere discreet. Just leaned against the hood like she owned it. I'd taken that picture from across the street, no zoom necessary. I slipped the recorder into a drawer against the shared wall, mic angled up. Pressed record, let it capture everything, the laughter, the clinking, the subtle choreography of betrayal in surround sound. I uploaded the file to a secure drive, labeled it Hotel Incident 1, attached a timestamp, BCC'd my attorney with no message, just the raw material. He'd know what to do. The suite smelled faintly of citrus and linen, the kind of sterile, upscale scent meant to distract you from how much people pay to ruin things in rooms like this. At 12:43 a.m., there was a knock on their door. Loud, sharp, professional. Hotel security. Apparently, someone had lodged a noise complaint. Wonder who. I stepped out into the hallway just as they knocked again. 2 men in navy jackets with clipboards and radios. One was mid-sentence when he noticed me. "Evening, sir. Everything all right?" "Quite. I'm in 408. The second man paused, checked something on his clipboard. "Guest next door?" I nodded. "You'll want to make a note. I'm the legal spouse." That caught their attention. The first guy glanced at me uncertain. "Excuse me?" I held up the sleeve with the marriage certificate. "She's my wife," I said, calm as a chess master mid-move. "He isn't her husband. I am." More shuffling. The radio squawked. I heard a bed creak behind the wall again, then silence. The door opened. Denise stood there barefoot, robe half-tied, mascara smudged like she hadn't expected to be looked at too closely. Her glass of champagne was still half full. She blinked when she saw me. "Alan?" The name left her mouth like a bad taste. Her smile came too late. Behind her, her ex, Jeff or Jim or something equally forgettable, stood in boxer briefs, rubbing the back of his neck. One of the security guys cleared his throat. "Ma'am, we've had a complaint about noise. Can we confirm the name on the reservation?" Denise hesitated. I stepped forward, not close, just enough. "Room 409 was paid for with my card. She's not on the reservation. Legally, she's here with someone who isn't her spouse. Just want to clarify that." Jeff or Jim made a move like he wanted to step forward. One of the security guards subtly positioned himself between us. I didn't even blink. Denise's jaw tightened. "Alan, can we talk? Privately?" I ignored her. "Just here to ensure there's documentation of who's present in which room," I said, turning back toward mine, given the implications for shared assets and reputation. The hotel staff looked like they'd just walked into a landmine. Denise hissed, "What the hell are you doing?" I looked over my shoulder. I'm doing what I always do, cleaning up the mess. Only this time, I'm keeping receipts. Then I shut the door. Behind it, muffled voices scrambled. Security, her protest, the sharp edge of a man who just realized he was in the wrong suite with the wrong woman, and, most delicious of all, the sound of panic beginning to bloom in Denise's voice. I sat back down at the desk, checked the recording, still running, poured myself a glass of water. Calm hands, steady pulse. She had no idea the night had just started, and she wasn't the one writing the ending anymore. Denise opened the door, mid-laugh, holding a champagne glass like it was a trophy. I saw it before she saw me. Her expression still shaped around a joke I wasn't invited to hear. The moment our eyes locked, that laugh snapped off her face like a switch got flipped. I could practically hear the sound of her stomach hitting the floor. She blinked twice, maybe hoping I was a hallucination conjured by too much Prosecco and poor judgment. Her robe was the same one I saw on her Instagram story last year, a gift from a friend, she'd said. Probably the same friend behind her in the room now, rubbing the back of his neck like he was trying to physically rewind time. Alan? She asked, like my name had suddenly become a foreign language. Evening, I said flat. Her ex, Jeff apparently, looked over her shoulder and squinted at me. I could see him sizing me up, older, calm, not yelling. That confused him. Men like him expect fireworks. I brought floodlights. The taller security guard stepped forward, glancing between us like he'd walked into an improv scene without knowing his lines. Ma'am, he said, carefully neutral, your name isn't on the room. We need to verify the guest's identity and their relationship to the booking. Denise sputtered. I booked this with he was invited. I stepped in, slow and deliberate, and held up the laminated marriage certificate. She's not the primary guest, I said, but she's my wife, legally, still. Her eyes flicked to the paper, her lips parted. Nothing came out. And I'm not here to cause trouble, I added, turning slightly so the guards could see the calm on my face, just to make sure no one ends up on social media tonight in ways that affect my name, my finances, or my legal standing. Jeff let out a sarcastic snort. Jesus, are you serious right now? I turned to him, slow, like an old lion who's been keeping still for too long. Do you really want to ask me that question? Tonight? While I have a notarized marriage certificate in my hand and your face 5 inches from mine in a public hallway? His mouth opened, then closed. Denise stepped in front of him like she could absorb the damage by sheer proximity. You're being ridiculous, she snapped, voice shaking. You're trying to humiliate me. I stared at her. You did that part yourself. She started to say something else but didn't. She just stood there, trembling slightly, realizing for the first time in a very long time that I wasn't there to beg or bark or bargain. She looked over at the security guards, trying to summon some imaginary moral high ground. This is a private matter. One of them spoke up, still polite but firm. Ma'am, once guests involve the front desk and there's a dispute over room access or identity, it's no longer private. Denise's eyes darted between the three of us like someone losing control of a chessboard they thought they'd already won. The glass in her hand tilted a little. For a moment, I wondered if it would shatter, if she'd hurl it at me, but she didn't. Jeff muttered something under his breath, something that sounded like, I told you this was a bad idea, and disappeared further into the room. That stung her more than anything I could have said. With a shaky hand, she reached for the door. Well, if you're done being petty, I'd like to enjoy what's left of my evening, she snapped, forcing her chin high. I nodded. By all means. Just remember, the mood you picked tonight came with documentation. She froze, then slammed the door so hard the hallway echoed. The guards looked at me, unsure. You okay, sir? More than, I said. And I'm not filing a complaint. I just wanted a timestamp and a witness. That's all. They nodded, still trying to process it. One scribbled something on a clipboard. The other spoke into his radio. I walked back into my room. Didn't even sigh, because she'd just given me what I came for. The visual, the reaction, the panicked silence, the proof that the game she thought she controlled was already slipping out of her hands. She thought I'd come here to win her back. No, I came to make sure there was no way left for her to lie. Not to me, not to her family, not to a judge, not even to herself. And the best part? I never raised my voice. But the cracks in her world were already forming. The door slammed behind her, and I didn't flinch, not because I didn't feel anything, but because I'd already felt it all. The shock, the humiliation, the ache in your gut when you realize the person you built a life with sees you as an inconvenience to their fun. I'd processed all of that years ago. Tonight was paperwork. I sat down at the desk in my suite and opened my laptop. The Wi-Fi connected immediately, one of the few benefits of high-end betrayal. Strong signal, fast service. My cursor hovered over a folder titled Contingencies. Inside, dated photos, scanned credit card logs, overlapping timelines, and a spreadsheet that would make a forensic accountant weep with joy. Denise wasn't sloppy, she was arrogant. Two different things. She used the same Visa for our Costco runs and her hotel stays, the same Gmail to order a birthday cake for her niece, and to book spa treatments under vague aliases. But aliases don't work when you use your actual billing address. Amateurs always forget the billing address. I bundled the files into a zip and attached them to an encrypted email. Subject, updated package. Recipient, Greg Haskins, our CPA of 17 years. I added one line in the body, please review for potential misallocation of marital funds. Click. Next, I opened the real estate portal tied to the deed of our home, pulled up the joint ownership record. A few keystrokes, one soft click, and the home title was temporarily frozen. Pending review, flagged for legal dispute. The feature was built for divorce cases. They don't advertise it on the homepage, but it's there if you dig deep enough. She wouldn't be able to refinance, pull equity, or sell so much as a shrub now. Not without my written consent. Then I opened the draft folder on my desktop. Separation Denise PDF. Pre-signed. Dated. Reviewed in quiet lunches with my lawyer over the last 6 months, right after she told me I was too tired for passion and emotionally claustrophobic. The document was thorough. Asset clauses. Custody of the dog, even though she never liked him much. Said he smelled like an old rug. Retirement split contingencies. Privacy terms. And a special clause buried on page 9 that froze any joint liquid assets if evidence of infidelity compromising asset integrity emerged. I attached it to a separate email. Subject, trigger if anything from tonight surfaces. The kind of message a man sends when he knows how cause and effect works, and that he's been methodically lining up the dominoes for years. Sent. As the files uploaded, my phone buzzed. Denise, we need to talk. Please come next door. Buzzed again. Denise, this is out of control. Alan, please. Buzzed a third time. Denise, are you seriously doing this? I muted the thread. No typing bubbles. No response. Let her stew. Instead, I clicked over to the hotel's room service menu. Ordered breakfast for one. Eggs over easy, rye toast, black coffee. Delivery time, 7:00 a.m. She had her night of champagne. I'd have mine of closure. Sunny side up. I shut the laptop and leaned back, listening again through the wall. Muffled movement, no more giggling, just the familiar disorganized chaos of someone scrambling to regain control they never actually had. I pictured her pacing, probably barefoot, probably still wearing that robe, hair starting to frizz. She always lost her cool when she didn't have a script to follow. That's the thing about manipulators. They need the other person to play along. When you go off script, they can't improvise. They just flail, and she was flailing. I thought about going next door, not to talk, just to look her in the eyes and ask the one question that would gut her clean. Was it worth it? But no, that moment would come later, when the papers hit her desk, when the silence from her family started to stretch, when the walls she built out of charm and half-truths finally collapsed under her own weight. Now was not the time for drama. Now was for restraint, the slow drip of consequence. Tactical patience. So I turned off the light, got into the untouched bed, pulled the covers to my chest, and stared at the ceiling. Outside, I heard someone's car alarm chirp. Somewhere above me, water ran through pipes. And next door, silence. Funny thing about silence, it used to terrify me. Now I'd weaponized it. She wanted to feel something tonight. I was going to make sure she did, just not the way she expected. At 6:52 a.m., the hallway door slammed. Not mine, his. I heard the clumsy shuffle of a suitcase handle snagging on carpet, the rushed click of dress shoes, and the barely muffled sound of Jeff, or whatever forgettable name he actually goes by, cursing under his breath as he hauled himself down the corridor like a man trying to outrun something thicker than guilt. Legal exposure will do that to a guy. I stood at the window, coffee in hand, watching him load his overpriced duffel into a black sedan. No goodbye kiss, no parting glance back, just keys, door, gone. Didn't even wait for breakfast. I heard the panic 3 minutes later. Thud, 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 a fist against my door. Desperate, out of rhythm. Alan, please, just open the door. I took another sip of coffee. Alan, I know you're in there, please. Another pound. Then her voice cracked. Jeff left. He got scared and just left. Please, can we just talk for a second? The desperation came fast. When it comes to women like Denise, it always does. Once the audience leaves, the real show begins. I set my mug down, walked to the door, didn't rush. I opened it just enough so she could see one eye, half my face, and the steel behind it. She looked wrecked, eyes swollen, hair tangled. The robe she was so proud of now hung like a crumpled flag of surrender. She was barefoot, shivering, maybe from the cold air, maybe from the realization that she was finally on her own stage with no applause. I need to explain, she said, voice warbling like it was trying to find the right frequency for pity. You don't, I said flatly. She bit her lip. I'd seen that move before. It used to work, not anymore. I was just trying to feel seen, she choked out, eyes brimming. I tilted my head. Now you are. Her brows furrowed. I continued, voice calm, almost bored. By hotel security, by legal, by me. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again, like a fish on dry land suddenly learning what air feels like. Alan, I never meant. You meant exactly what you did, I cut in. You just never meant to get caught. She reached for the door, tried to nudge it open farther, but I stepped back. Don't. Her hand froze. I'm not here to fix you, Denise. I'm not here to be your audience, your therapist, or your backup plan. A tear slipped down her cheek. I watched it fall, didn't move. Where am I supposed to go? She whispered. There it was. Not love, not apology, logistics. I shook my head slowly. That's no longer my problem. Her mouth twisted, like she was trying to decide whether to collapse or lash out, but both would require leverage, and she didn't have any left. I closed the door, didn't slam it, didn't lock it loudly, just clicked it shut like the final line in a contract being signed. Back inside, my breakfast tray was waiting. Eggs still warm, coffee hot, the sun finally beginning to stretch across the bed sheets. Through the wall, silence. Not the giggling kind, the heavy, empty kind. The kind that comes after all the noise has been spent and the spotlights turned off. I sat, fork in hand, and ate like it was any other morning. Because for the first time in years, it was. The drive home was quiet. Not peaceful, just quiet. That sterile kind of silence you get in hospitals or empty churches, where sound would feel like a violation. No music, no radio, just the soft hum of tires on asphalt and the occasional creak of the steering wheel when I adjusted my grip. I wasn't thinking about Denise, not really, not in the way she probably hoped I was. I didn't replay her tears or try to untangle her just trying to feel scene monologue like some tragic poem. I didn't indulge the could-haves or the whys. I was thinking about how people only panic when consequences start to look like company. When I pulled into the driveway, there was a silver SUV parked at an angle, halfway onto the grass. Passenger door still open, like the driver had exited in a rush. I knew that car, knew it from birthday dinners and passive-aggressive Thanksgiving conversations, her sister Jolene. I killed the engine. She was already waiting on the porch, arms crossed, face tight in that mix of concern and misplaced loyalty. She'd always played both sides, smiled in my direction, but defaulted to blood when it came to conflict. She called me crying, she said, as I walked up the steps. I didn't answer, just unlocked the front door, left it open behind me. If she wanted to talk, she could do it on my turf. She followed me in, her heels clicking against the tile like accusations. I could smell her perfume, same one Denise wore in our first year of marriage. Family tradition, I guess. Alan, she said you embarrassed her. At the hotel, that you ambushed her. I stopped in the hallway, turned. She say why she was at the hotel? She hesitated. She said she was with a friend. I tilted my head. She say the friend was inside her robe? Her mouth flattened into a line. I walked to the kitchen counter and picked up a manila envelope I'd placed there before leaving last night. It had been waiting, just in case. I handed it to her. She took it, opened it with the dramatic slowness of someone expecting something exaggerated, and froze. Inside, screenshots, hotel receipts, audio transcription highlights, the photo of Denise and Jeff leaning against my truck, a timeline neatly printed from the first book club lie to the moment hotel security knocked on 409. She thought I'd always stay quiet, I said, stepping back. I didn't. Jolene looked up. Her face had changed, not angry, not even shocked, just smaller. Why give this to me, she asked, voice lower now. Because I know what she's texting the rest of you. I know the version of the story she's spinning. I figured someone should see the real one before it spreads. She stared at the envelope in her hands for another few seconds, then turned and walked to the door without another word. No defense, no apology, just silence and the weight of evidence in her purse. When the door shut behind her, I didn't smile. I didn't need to. That evening, my phone lit up once. A group message, Denise's family chat, a photo of her at a restaurant smiling like nothing happened. The caption, back to normal, grateful for real support. But the only replies were those 3 gray check marks. Read. No hearts, no likes, no responses. Then the thread went dead. Next day, Denise posted a story, her and her niece painting pottery. But the background audio caught her sister's voice. Clipped, formal, distant. Not long after, I got a text from Jolene. She's on her own now. That was it. Funny thing about families, they'll cover for you until you make them part of the lie. She thought I was the one being left behind. Thought I'd be sitting in the ruins of her choices looking for pieces of myself. But the truth was simpler. I wasn't isolated anymore. She was. It happened exactly 1 week later. Late afternoon. Burbia in full swing, sprinklers sputtering, lawnmowers growling, Amazon vans hitting driveways like clockwork. And Denise, of course, out front in her favorite little act, pretending she wasn't unraveling. She was on the porch, yoga mat rolled under one arm, faking a phone call. The sunglasses were oversized, the posture calculated, standing just close enough to her gym friend to suggest, see, I'm totally fine. That friend, Monica or Marissa or something equally forgettable, was leaning on her car, sipping a protein shake like this was all just some midweek soap opera. They always traveled in pairs, women like that. Just in case one started crying, the other could post about it later in healing language. That's when the process server stepped out of the black sedan, khakis, clipboard, calm. Denise Wallace, he asked, already flipping through the stack. She turned with that fake, confused smile that only comes from knowing you've been caught and thinking you might still spin it. Can I help you? She said, like a customer service rep about to hang up on you. He handed over the manila envelope. Thick, heavy, full of consequence. You've been served. Legal proceedings regarding dissolution of marriage, all outlined inside. Monica Marissa straightened, suddenly invested. Denise didn't flinch, didn't flail, just nodded like it was a package delivery. That's how I knew it hit, the stillness. She didn't open the envelope right away. She held it like it was radioactive. But I know the moment she read it because 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Denise. Seriously? You're escalating this? I didn't reply. I didn't need to, because inside those documents was everything she thought I'd never pull the trigger on. The marriage certificate, the asset ledger, the infidelity clause. Page 14 highlighted. Any disputed infidelity impacting marital assets shall trigger a full financial review and restrict access to shared holdings until such review concludes. Translation. If she so much as touches a savings account without sign-off, she's in contempt. She liked to tell people I was too boring to be vindictive. I wonder what she told them when she saw her name locked out of the house's equity portal. Because the house? Still in my name. Has been for the last 10 months. She signed off on the refinance paperwork without reading the revised ownership line. Whatever, just handle it, she said that day. So I did. And the car she drives, the white SUV she bragged about picking out herself at the dealership, it's leased, under my credit, registered to me, insurance billed to my policy. I sent a termination letter to the leaseholder that morning, let them know she no longer had my authorization. I kept the phrasing polite. Cold, clean, legal. She'd have 30 days to return it or assume financial liability, which, given her credit score, would be the financial equivalent of voluntarily swallowing glass. And the gym, that was just a bonus. She found out at check-in later that night, swiped her little barcode tag, got a blinking red light and a confused teenager behind the counter flipping through the monitor like he'd just accidentally deleted someone's profile. Sorry, ma'am. It says your membership's been deactivated. Excuse me? I don't know. It just says revoked. She asked for the manager. The manager came out, my cousin, Rick. He didn't smile, just handed her a short letter. Dear Ms. Wallace, due to a conflict of interest with the ownership party and concerns regarding recent public conduct that may reflect poorly on our brand, your membership is hereby revoked, effective immediately. Thank you for your understanding. Best regards, R. Wallace Family Ties. She never liked Rick, said he acted like he ran the place. Well, he does, and now he runs it without her. I imagine she walked out of that gym in a daze, holding her paperwork, her ego, and nothing else. The control she clung to wasn't control at all. It was a leash I let her believe she held. And now, with every severed tie, every revoked benefit, every silent consequence, she was starting to feel what it meant to stand alone, not empowered, not reborn, just unclaimed, smiling through collapse as an art form, and Denise gave it her best. Her first post came 3 days after the papers were served, a carefully filtered selfie in front of a brunch plate she clearly didn't eat. Caption, sometimes the reset button is the best thing for the soul. Comments off, of course they were. Then came the wine and patio shot, followed by a boomerang of her spinning in a floral dress. Alone, no tags, no location. Then the obligatory flat lay of a journal, coffee, and a pen that had never been uncapped. Choosing joy, focusing inward, finally putting me first, all variations of a performance that had no audience anymore. Not really, because the comments she couldn't control, the quiet group texts, the muttered reactions at Pilates, the questions people didn't ask her but whispered in yoga changing rooms, those were the ones spreading. She underestimated how fast a story moves when the truth doesn't scream. It just walks in, calm and undeniable. It started with a post in a small neighborhood Facebook group, harmless, titled, When Dignity is Louder Than Drama. Just a screenshot of a paragraph from my court filing. No names, no tags. She texted, "You'd ruin the mood." He replied by reclaiming his name. That was it. 37 likes, 12 shares. Someone, probably Jolene, added context in the comments. Quietly, elegantly. Then came the messages. Not public, never loud, but steady. Alan, I didn't know, but I respect how you handled it. Read that quote. Damn. Well played. You stayed calm. That's harder than it looks. Even Rick from the gym called me just to say, she always treated the gym like her stage. You reminded her it's just a floor. I didn't respond to most. Just read, nodded, filed them mentally away under validation I never asked for. Denise, of course, noticed. She tried to fight it with what she always relied on. Image control. That week she filed a motion. Not for full reconciliation. She wouldn't dare. Just a request to renegotiate terms of the separation agreement. Said things were moving too fast, that she needed space to reflect and heal, that the current terms were restrictive given her lifestyle. Translation. She wanted back in, not into the marriage, into the comfort. I read the filing, read it twice. Then sent a one-line reply to my lawyer, declined, as filed. She'd lost every piece of leverage. Her family stopped responding to her messages. The niece she posted pottery painting pictures with unfollowed her. Her gym friends ghosted her group chat, migrated to a new one. I saw the name once, Clean Slate Squad. Subtle. Even Jeff, her backup plan, was MIA. Word was, he switched gyms, started dating someone new, someone unmarried. Funny how that works. The final blow came 2 nights ago. I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was a screenshot of a dating profile. There she was. Denise, slightly blurred selfie, same joy first language. But the bio said, recently out of a long marriage, learning how to love again. Let's keep it fun. No drama. I stared at it for a moment, then just wrote back, hope she finds someone who can afford fun. The reply was a laughing emoji, nothing else. She used to tell me I wasn't romantic enough, that I couldn't hold a room. But she was wrong. I just never needed the spotlight. And because in the end, the room she built for herself was full of smoke and mirrors, and all I had to do was open a window. The call came on a Wednesday afternoon, just as I was packing up the cooler for my weekend at my brother's cabin. "Mr. Wallace?" a professional voice said. "This is Eli, the property manager at Belmore Hotel. Just wanted to follow up on your request." I leaned on the counter, calm. "Yes?" "We've reviewed the incident. Our security team logged your presence, confirmed the date and timestamps, and saved the footage as requested. Your conduct was, frankly, sir, textbook, polite, professional." I didn't respond right away, just let that word hang in the air, professional. He continued, "We'll retain the footage under the preservation request you filed. No further action necessary on your part." Just confirming that we've flagged all relevant files in case they're required. "In case," I said, being the polite way of saying when. He chuckled awkwardly. "Well, yes, sir. If you need anything else, legal copies, timestamps, notarization, we'll cooperate." "Appreciated." He hesitated, then added, "Between you and me, we've seen a lot in that place, but you handled it differently." "I wasn't there for theatrics." "Exactly," he said, like he'd been holding it in. "You were strategic." I thanked him. Hung up. That should have been the end of it, but of course, Denise had one last gasp in her. That evening, she sent a text. No subject, no emojis, just 6 words. "I missed the man who chased me." I read it while standing in the garage, hands dusty from folding up old tarps. I didn't laugh. I didn't rage. I just stared at it. Those 6 words that sounded more like nostalgia for a version of herself than any real regret. She missed the man who chased her? Of course she did, because chasing her gave her power, gave her leverage, gave her attention when she didn't want to work for it. She wanted the chase without the commitment, the thrill, without the consequence. So I typed one sentence back. "You buried him the night you chose a hotel over a home." Then I blocked her. No dramatic send-off, no message left on read for effect, just digital silence, the kind that can't be spun, twisted, reposted, or undone. Later that weekend, I was up at the cabin. No service, no buzzing phone, no questions. Just water lapping at the edge of the dock and a fishing line drifting lazily through the morning fog. My brother was still asleep. His old Labrador snored beside the cooler. I sat on a folding chair, breathing in air so clean, it hurt my lungs. I didn't feel victorious. I felt done. And that was more valuable than revenge, because this wasn't about punishing her. It wasn't about rubbing it in. It wasn't even about winning. It was about clarity. No more chasing, no more doubts. No more knots in my stomach over lies told with a smile. She wanted drama. I chose documentation. Guess who the law listened to?